Hello, I'm Joshua Farnsworth and welcome to my workshop. In this video today I wanted to talk to you about how to make winding sticks. So what are winding sticks? So when you get a piece of lumber, quite often that lumber will be twisted or it will have what's called wind in it. Winding sticks sit on each end of the piece of lumber, and as you're hand planing it down, it will exaggerate the wind or the twist in it to let you know which corners are high, which are low, and how much to hand plane off. So if you're a power tool guy, you still will have a need for winding sticks eventually if you ever plan on building something like this, a big workbench. I mill up most of my boards with power tools nowadays, unless I'm doing something smaller. But this is just something, these big workbenches, like these big slabs, weigh several hundred pounds, and they just don't fit through any machinery that I own, nor that I could probably ever afford. So I have to use hand tools, or sometimes you can use power planers. But even with power planers, power hand planers, you still need to check for twist and wind and use winding sticks. So these workbenches, these winding sticks were, I didn't have any that were quite big enough, so I decided to use this opportunity to make a little video as I was making these workbenches for my school. Now, if you've been following me, you know that I'm opening my woodworking school. We'll be opening it in May of 2018, and this is the official announcement here, I guess, that classes as of today are now officially open for registration. So hurry over if you're interested in taking a class here in Virginia. We've got a lot of great instructors. Will Myers, Bill Anderson, Tom Callisto, all of whom teach at the Woodwright School with Roy Underhill. We've got Corey Loftheim, who's planning some classes right now. He's the head cabinet maker at Colonial Williamsburg. We've got David Ray Pine, a really amazing traditional furniture maker. And we've got the Ellis brothers, and of course me. So anyways, enough of that. I'll share a link with you where you can see the classes. But let's jump now into seeing how to make winding sticks and how to use them, even if you're only planning on ever just using them for something like this, for building some big workbenches. So for your winding sticks, just use scrap that you have. So you can certainly use hand tools for this. For me, I'm in a hurry building workbenches, so I just using my power tools. So run it through the bandsaw to rip it, and then I go through and obviously flatten it on the joint or on a face, and then on an edge to square it up. And then, like always, I make my little mark to show what the reference edge and the reference face is. This will help with layout. Then I flatten it on the planer to get a even thickness. I believe my final thickness was 5/8 thick, and the height was 2 1/4, and the length was about 3 feet. So once you've got it all squared up, take your marking gauge and just find the halfway point. This isn't critical. This is just for aesthetic purposes because we're going to plane it off. And then I just take a pencil to darken this, because when you're hand planing, it's kind of hard to see. Then I take another marking gauge, or just set the first one, and I take this against the reference edge. And I also go halfway. Again, this is not important. You can do it wherever you want, but this is just what was easy for me. And then, like before, I just take it and I scribe it from one end to the other. So now you can see here that I've marked the edges, and I just connect it with a ruler so that I can gauge my progress when I'm hand planing. So that I mark as waste so that I know what to take off. An alternative thing that you can do is make a little inlay of some sort, like I did, or you can drill a hole and put a different colored dowel in it, or you could just take a marker and use it. This helps you to see the difference in the height of the winding sticks when you've got them all set up and you're looking from one end to the other. I won't go into too much detail about the inlay, that's for a different tutorial, but I lay the inlay piece on and measure it, and I square everything up with a combination square. I use my marking gauge to get the correct depth, and then when I've got everything laid out just so, I use a chisel to clean up as much as I can. And then I take a small router plane, like this little antique Stanley router plane, And just like hinges on a door, you just clean it out down to your layout line. It's not difficult at all. And you can see how it fits right here, and then you can glue it in. Okay, let's get down to hand planing the bevel. The first thing I do is I use a jack plane. The jack plane has a cambered iron, and it allows you to take a lot off at one time. But don't go all the way down the lines with your jack plane, or you'll go past the lines and you'll be pretty sorry. So after that, I take a jointer plane, and a jointer plane works just as well as a smoothing plane if you don't have a smoothing plane. And it gives you a nice smooth finish, and just work your way down to the layout lines on the top, on the face, and also on the edge, and just watch them closely. You may need to plane a little more on one end than the other, so that's why the dark layout lines are really helpful. So just keep going until you have a nice bevel. This is also how you can do raised panels. It's very similar. So this should help you if you decide to make some raised panel doors. I also plane the top with a jointer plane to get it nice and smooth and to get that inlay nice and flush. And then if you want to, you can put some kind of finish on it. This really isn't necessary. I'm just using beeswax and oil finish that I did in a previous tutorial. The only reason that I make these look nice, as I mentioned before, is so that I know they're not scrap wood to be thrown away or burned in the fire. So let's talk about how to use winding sticks. So you can see here on these workbench slabs that I've been flattening with a hand plane, I set one winding stick on one end and one on the other, and I look over the top and I close one eye, and I look and I can see which corner is higher than the other. And that tells me that that corner needs to be planed. You can see here that the right corner over there is higher than the left one. The left corner closest to me is probably higher as well. Then you just keep hand planing, and you'll have a nice flat top. This is Joshua Farnsworth. If you're interested in learning traditional woodworking with hand tools, visit my website at woodandshop.com, where you can find free video tutorials, workshop tours of amazing traditional woodworkers, and tool buying guides. You can ask questions and share your projects with thousands of woodworkers on my free traditional woodworking forum. Make sure you subscribe to my regular blog posts, and also check out my 10 steps for getting started in traditional woodworking. Enjoy!